Hey everybody, welcome back to Stand Up Your Tubes, a circular knitting machine channel to bring you original patterns that you've never seen before, unique ways to work with the tubes so that we control them and they don't control us. And the Lord put it on my heart to have a new playlist called Guardians of Nature. So last week I uploaded a free tutorial for two fairies, one that guards the waters, our lakes and oceans and streams, and one that guards the woodlands. And this is the Arctic fox that guards those places that are just so cold. But look how warm our Arctic fox is going to be. So what do you think? Are you going to stick around and watch the tutorial so that you can make an Arctic fox a guardian of nature? So I hope you'll like, subscribe, and that you'll follow Stand Up Your Tubes, and that you'll make something special, never before seen. And I'll show you how. God bless you. Before we start talking about making the tubes, I wanted to get a really close-up of this yarn. I've never used it before, but it was donated. It's challenging. On the 22 pin, it behaved so well, but on my 46 pin Addi, it was a challenge, so this is how I handled it. This is just a regular 4-ply. I don't really care for the texture. I don't want it to be the outside of my Arctic fox, but it makes a good inner tube. So I cast on and cranked out 50 because the whole tube is 100. Then I put my 5-ply on and I cranked out until I had 100. Just reach right inside, grab it, pull it down, crank it, pull it down over those teeth, and I only had to do 50 rows. And for the head, I did it the same way. Started with the 4-ply, finished up with the bulky. It was doable, and what a fabulous look. I'm just over the moon with it, and so grateful that the 22 pin cranked it out effortlessly. So I'm going to fold the 4-ply up inside. Now, don't be in despair if you find that you have a tuck stitch. Like I have a tuck stitch right here. I'm not going to worry about it because my Arctic fox is going to have haunches. It's going to have arms. It's going to have a big fat tail. So think about it that way. And if you see one slip by you, just imagine what you could put over it to hide it. And, you know, if it's practically here, or here, it's going to have something to cover it. So here's my body. And of course, to be able to cinch it up on both ends, this cast on, cast off is going to be the neck. This is going to be the bottom of it. So I'm going to put a draw cord in it of yarn by going over a row, under, over, under, just like we do on every other stuffed animal. So let me get mine in and I'll be right back. And now that I have my drawstring in, I'm just going to cinch it up and tie a bow. Whoops, start by making the beginning of a knot and then just do a bow instead of finishing with the knot. And we can adjust our stuffing and whatnot through this, which will be the last part of our animal that we're going to close up. That lets us get the stuffing and everything just right. And this is just feels wonderful with this chunky yarn. If you don't have the chunky, just go straight 4-ply. It'll just look like this instead of this. And it won't even affect the size all that much. Okay, I'm going to stuff this out and just get a body shape going. I'll show you what it looks like. I've just stuffed the body tube out, cinched the top up around about 4 fingers so I can still get into both ends. So let's just set this off to the side and talk about how we're going to make the haunches. Because we're not going to just have feet like this. We're going to have real haunches. So on your 22 pin, and this should crank out pretty easy for you, for the back hind legs, we're going to do a total of 40 rows each. You can tell by looking. I mean, if it was on the 46 pin, it would be this wide. So it's pretty easy to tell, isn't it? And we're going to crank out 40 rows for each foot. And then just cinch it up. And I like wherever my yarn is coming out of my tube, right here. I like to make that the center, unless you're trying to hide a bad stitch that you might want to have rolled to the inside. So just do a single knot. This is going to be the paw of our foot. So to get a nice look, we get our V's pointing the same way. It doesn't matter if they're pointed this way or this way, but we line the rows up, and we're going to do we're going to mattress stitch. So 2 bars, 2 bars. So it's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. Okay, I made 13, 14, 13, 14, and I'm going to stuff out the toe. So before I even pull that mattress stitch, I can get my toe stuffed out. And I want to pull that mattress stitch so it closes all the way up to the end of the toe. All the way to there. And then put this little knot stitch right here so I can keep it all together. And a single knot will do. And now we have two paws. And we're going to round the top of the haunch a bit, but let's just close it up over 3 fingers for now, just to neaten it up. Same thing on this one. And we need a left and a right haunch. So with the stitching facing up, this will be one, and this will be the other one. So that when we put them on, our haunches, they almost look like little baby booties, don't they? So with the toe nice and stuffed out, we're just going to bring it up onto the toe, crossing over at kind of an angle, so that we can then sew this part up onto the body and have the look of a haunch. And then we can just put a little tiny bit of stuffing into what would be the heel right here before we finish closing it up. So I'm going to take my needle and just pulling it over at an angle. So here's where we stop stitching. And I'm going to pull it up and look at it. And I think, wow, that'll look pretty good. My yarn is already pretty much in a good position. And I'm going to secure this on the toe here. Okay, and then as I'm sewing it on, I can just kind of pull it forward. This will rest on the table. So let's go ahead and cinch up the top. Here's the foot, here's the top. Let's go ahead and pull it snug and put a knot up here to hold it together. I want to put my foot onto the table with it bending up, straight up like this. I'm going to start sewing on this haunch. And I also want to make sure that I don't sew all the way around so I can put some stuffing in it and give it a little shape. So let me get this yarn up to the top. I'm coming straight up. So on the table, give it another little check. So it's on the table. Here's where I popped out. So I'm going to go in 2 bars. And I'm going to be sewing on the outside edge of my leg tube. So I'm going to catch 2 bars. Whoops. It's going to want to move around on my table a little bit. Okay, I'm going to get the next 2 bars. Oops. And 2 bars. I think you get the idea. Coming straight up. And when we put this haunch on, we're going to be spreading it out some, so it goes on looking like the top of an animal's leg. So I did about 3, and now I'm stretching it out a little bit, rounding it. So I'm going to be coming a little more towards the front of the body at an angle to get that rounding started. But I'm staying on the same row of my leg. And then what I like to do to get a really nice top is when I come around the top, I'm not going to be in my cast on and cast off row right here. I'm going to come back a stitch. And then when I pull it, it's going to roll that under and give me a really nice rounded edge. So I'm going to come around my top, coming in one row back from my cast on and cast off row, so that when I pull it, I round it. Then stretching it out. Before I get all the way to the bottom, where I'm going to make this little foot come up, I want to put just a little bit of stuffing in here. I have a tiny little opening here, and I stuffed even more stuffing up in here because I really want it to come straight out, and so that the foot is off to the side like this, and not coming over this way, out to the side. All right, like that. I am back with both legs on, and I have, if I count my rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 full rows in the tummy between my haunches here, if you want yours to look like mine. And now when it sits down, the little feet bend up. It looks like it has a haunch. I think it's cute. I like it. And of course, it's not real stable because it needs this big fat tail. And what is the big fat tail? It's 2 tubes so that we can close it up on each end. So an inner tube of 4-ply, an outer tube of 4-ply, or if you're going the route that I'm going, this is a 5-ply, which worked really, really well on my 22 pin. And I wanted this little band of color at the end just to match the ears. And I'll show you an ear that's made so you'll know why. This is our little ear, and it has this little ring of color on it to make it pop out. So does our tail. So I'm pulling the 4-ply down into my 5-ply, or you'll make 2 4-plies. It's optional. And the tail is going to be on the 22 pin, 55 rows of my chunky white or your 4-ply. Then I'm going to do 10 rows of a pale bluish gray. You may use a different color. And then I'm going to go back to my chunky white, and I'm going to finish up with 75 rows. If you're going to omit the little band of color, then you'll just crank out 75 rows total. And I'm going to pull my 4-ply tube up inside because I do believe that foxes have fat tails. So now that I have it pulled up inside, I'm closing up my inner tube, closing up the outer tube around it, making it nice and neat. I'm going to tie the yarn tails together and I'll lightly stuff it so that it's, not stuffed like a leg, but it has some shape to it. I'll show you mine when I get it stuffed all the way up. Here's where you have to be really careful, because if you stuff it too much, it can't attach to the butt and curve around to its feet. It has so little stuffing in it. It's just enough to keep it from feeling like an empty tube. So you have to be able to bend it so we can get that cute look. If not, take some stuffing out if it's necessary. And this doesn't have to be beanie tight, because we're sewing it on the butt like this. We'll be back, like a finger joint back, sewing a circle on, just like it would be on a real animal, where it would be a little bit, where it's attached. It's not super, super skinny. So I'm going to sew with my chunky yarn. I'm shortening this yarn tail. I am not burying it, because as I sew around, I'm going to tie off to it. So I'm going to just bring it out to the edge, about right here, so it's ready to be used to tie off. And thread up my chunky, position it at the back of the Arctic fox. Its little feet coming forward. We haven't closed up the bottom yet. And I'm going to just come center. I want it to be, my tail to be resting on the table so that it stabilizes it. And then I'm going to sew it all the way around. Okay, so now we need some arms. And I've already mattress stitched this one closed. I didn't pull it all the way together at the top yet. And I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So on our 22 pin, we're going to crank out 50 rows, 50 rows, whichever one is your longest yarn tail. For me, it's going to be this one. So that's the one I'm going to cinch up and sew with. I'm going to put a single knot down here on the end, 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, mattress stitching up, and very lightly stuff it. Do not tie it off, because with the yarn that we were stitching with, we are going to pull that mattress stitch and give our arms a bend so that they can come together in the middle. So don't tie it off yet. Okay, I have them both mattress stitched, stuffed all the way up, not too much in its little hand area right here, really loose there because I don't want fat hands. And then just around, I pulled my mattress stitch till I got the curve, because we want the hands to come into the center of the chest so that they can be praying. And we want our curve to come around. We'll manipulate the paw after we get them sewn on so that the little paws can come together in the front like this. Ooh, it's going to be so cute. So get your curve coming forward. If you're happy with how you've pulled your mattress stitch, you've got the top closed up, maybe just give it one more little tug, tie it off at the top securely. You'll have one cord that you'll tie off to, yarn I should say, and the other yarn that you'll sew around with. I like to always make sure that I'm happy with the position. The arms are coming forward like this so they can come up in prayer. We're going to be, we close the top up a little bit, but leave at least 3 fingers so we can add stuffing. We can just get this out of the way just so that we have our shape going right. I love this tail. It adds so much stability. So we're going to come up mid-center of our leg here and attach our arm. And we're going to attach it so that it's rotated forward a little bit and coming up towards the middle of the chest. So see where it is in relation to the leg. All right. So coming down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 always works good for me. 5 rows. That's going to be the top of my arm. This will be my yarn tail that I tie off to. So I'm going to go into my body. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 down. When I come into my arm, I'm not going to sew right where I cinch that closed. I'm going to come back a stitch so I get a nice rounded look going around the arm. Then come in on my body. Go to the next row. Just coming back, I'm splitting my yarn here, so I want to come back out and try again. Then into the body, the next row. Stay back a stitch. And that'll give you a really nice look. And remember, we're rotating the arm forward. So I'm going to come down probably about this far. Then I'll just fold this little arm forward and sew it down this way onto the chest to keep it in position, then come up the back side and come all the way around. And they'll be coming like this, going towards the center. So I'm not sewing it coming down this way because then we wouldn't be able to get the arm up. I'm sewing it at an angle so they come together in the middle. My little hands are tied together, and this is our head tube. And it's 25 rows of 4-ply, and then I went to my 5-ply for 25 rows, or you'll just do 50 rows of 4-ply. I already have my drawstring in here on the color change because this is a little whiter. This is a little creamier, so that I can fold it in on itself. Like this. And then I'll have this as a drawstring that I can tie a bow into until I'm ready to make it a knot. So off camera, I lightly stuffed out my head, and I'm stuffing it out so that it's got little wide kind of cheeks. And now to give it a little nose without having to sew a nose onto the outside of it, but just have it gently jutting forward, I have a piece of just ordinary white felt, and I measured 5 and 5, so it's just a square. And I'm just going to round off my corners so that I'm getting a little more towards a circle. Going to gather up the edges just by taking a needle and thread and just going over, under, kind of basting around. But I'm going to use something strong. So you can use a couple strands of just regular old thread. Maybe you have some embroidery floss, but I have a metal needle so that I can go in and out, and I'm just going to go in and out all the way around so I can draw these edges up. So now I have a little pouch, and I'm going to stuff it. And you can stay about a half inch back from your edge. You're not putting your thread right on the very, very edge. We'll add a little bit more because it's going to want to compress when I get it in the head tube. Okay, something like this. I'm going to go ahead and tie it off. Because now that I've closed up the top, I needed to put a little more stuffing up, and that's why we tie bows. So I'm filling this in up at the top here, just poking it up towards the top. And then the last thing I'll do is pop my little nose back in. And because we made that little ball, it'll just sit right there. And I'm going to start drawing the draw cord back up. And it doesn't have to be closed all the way because we're just going to sew the head on in a circle. Make sure I have my nose where I want it. And it's on top of my stuffing. And the smooth side is out, so the part that we cinched up is against the stuffing. All right, so that filled out my forehead, and I'm going to tie it back into a bow. And now, okay, so there it is. Still got that cute little nose going, but filled in across the top. You might not need to do that. Yours might have been just perfect. So now we're going to make the hood, and this is going to be the part that goes over the head. And I'm going to cast on with the fur yarn on my 46-48 pin and crank 2 rows. Then I'm going to tie on my Hobby Lobby I Love This Yarn Blue Spruce, and I'm going to crank 2 55 rows, tie that fur yarn back on, crank 2 more rows, and then I'll be at a total of 57, and I'm going to cast off. I have a yarn tail here, and I tie it off to each of the fur yarn ends because they're only a row apart. So I get a nice secure closure here. You might want to make sure that you snug your fur yarn up if you need to. And then the same thing here. I tied it to each fur end, and with the one you cast off with is going to be a much longer yarn tail. So cut it off and save it for eyebrows or something for another project. And so that's going to give us this. And we're going to fold it in half. Bring all this beautiful fur up to the face. It's going to be magnificent, like this. So with it together, we have to be able to close the back up. So bring your fur together in the front. And we're going to need to go over, under on this folded edge so we can close up the back of the hood. So I'm going to do that off camera. That's the back. And we need to close up the hole. And we'll do a little bit of tacking right along the front to hold the fur together. And I'll probably use a gray yarn. So for the cape, we're going to do 1 or 2 rows of fur. Then I tied on my spruce 4-ply and turned until I had 45 rows. So fur just at one end. Make 3 of them. And what we're going to do is when you get it off the machine, just like on the hood, you're going to have 2 pieces of yarn and a piece of 4-ply. So snug it up a little bit and then tie the 4-ply to each of the yarn tails, and that'll secure the end of the tube. I want my draw cord to be in the center so I can use it to snug up the neck. Okay, yarn tails all in, up. That's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to mattress stitch all the way down, mattress stitch down, until I have 1 large panel. All right, I mattress stitched up, and look how beautifully it mattress stitched together. It looks pretty much seamless. So now I'm going to get some gray yarn that matches my fur, and I am just going to go in and out around the bottom without drawing it up because we need our width to be able to wrap it around. So I'm going to just stretch it out along the bottom so I'm not, so I can, when I cinch up the top, I'm going to have a cape shape. All right. So just stretching it out before I start sewing. Have my yarn tails all tucked up inside. All right, I'm about to finish up. So it didn't take very long because I just hold them together. And then from one side, I can just go in and out and keep track of what I'm doing. And every once in a while, just check the other side, make sure you're staying close to your fur. And here's what we're going to have at the bottom. It's going to be so cute. So once I stretch it out just a little bit, I'm going to tie off this yarn tail that I left out and bury it. Tie it off on this side and bury that. So I just have a couple more inches to go, and then we'll cinch up the top. So before we say we're done, let's do the same thing to the front of our hood. Bring our fur together and just whip stitch it together. And where our yarn tails are, I usually make that the back. And then that becomes the hat to our cape. And here's our cape. It's going to be so beautiful. But let's sew the head on. Make sure you have enough stuffing, that you have your shoulders stuffed out. We have a bow up there. So, not a bow, I'm sorry. This is our cast on, cast off, but we have not closed it up all the way. So I'm going to build the neck up just a little bit. So it elevates it up off the body just a little bit, so we can wrap that cape around. I'm really excited about this because I already know it's going to be so adorable. And it's going to be such a great friend to the collection, Nature's Guardians. All right. Okay, so I've got my shoulders stuffed out. I'm going to go ahead and close this up most of the way. About like this, because we don't need it super tight to sew the head on. And this keeps us from getting it too close. We're going to be sewing right around the outside edge of this, and it's going to work really good. So I'm going to tie it together to secure it. That's like 2 to 3 fingers can get in there. That's a nice neck size. Okay, so I'm going to shorten one yarn tail, and that's the one I'm going to tie off to. You can sew with this one. So now I need to take the bow out of the bottom of this head, make it about the same size as the neck, about like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cinch it up just a little bit tighter, tie it off, poke those yarn tails up inside. So that's your last chance to check your stuffing. We just closed it up. Okay, here's my little face looking at me like this. And I'm going to just start sewing around. You can go around once or twice. Be right back. All right, I have the head on, and I'm just going to take one little stitch in the end of the tail here, just to make sure it's closed up all the way. Tie it off one more time and bury the yarn tails, because I'm happy with the tail. All right, I'm just going to send them up this way. All right, I'm back. I sewed my edges of the hat together, just went around it. It's so cute. Look at it. It's going to be the cutest cape. And I kind of cinched up the top of the cape a little bit around my fingers so that I was getting the shape that I needed for it to go around its shoulders. It's so soft. I'm so glad I'm using, I love this yarn. So we want to get it about the right size to go around that neck and to come together in the middle. It's got the beautiful fur on the edge of it. It's got this beautiful fur cap. Okay, so let's make this quick little ear. And it has to be this long because that's the width of our 22 pin. So we're going to cast on with our white. And here's the 5 rows. This is a little bit wider right here. So we're going to cast on with our white and do 5 rows. Then we're going to do 3 rows of this soft bluish gray color, then 3 rows of white and cast off. So we have a total of 11 rows. And then this is going to be the inside of our ear. So let's close it up just to get some of that play out of it. We're trying to just make it a tighter rectangle. All right, so we're going to close this up first. From the wrong side. So we're going to turn it to the purl side. And we're going to start. Make sure you tie all your little yarn tails together where you change colors. I triple knotted mine and cut them pretty short. Now I am just going to whip stitch this close by going only through the cast on thread, so a single one, and I'm going to whip stitch all the way up to the top, and that's going to become the inside of the ear. When I turn it, it'll look like this one. It'll look like that. So it's a pretty nice look. All right, so I'm just going to make sure that they look the same. Roll this down a little bit. I got it a little bit cinched up a little bit too tight. All right, I'm going to whip stitch this closed. I'm trying to bring this in right here and get my edges together and tie a knot. That is not going to show down here because we're going to be rolling the ear back a little bit. Okay, now I'm just going to sew it up, whip stitch it closed. All right, I think you get the point. So I'm going to tie it off at the top and we can put our ears on. Okay, so I made it up to the top. I'm going to put a little knot in it. But there's one thing that I did, and I just brought it through after I rolled my soft gray so that it was showing. I just brought this yarn through to the front, went over where I sewed it up, came back out to the back side just to hold the point of that ear together. And now I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot and bury that yarn tail. So I'm bringing it up like this to give me a base, and I do want to sew this up before I start sewing it on. I'll just start by tying a knot right here. So I can control the ear and have it not be so long. It's going to make it easier to sew. So I'm just going to whip stitch this up so it stays folded back. And my yarn tail's trapped. This one that I started with. Here we go. There we go. All right, so it just took about 3 stitches to come across it like this, just folding it up. So now I have a nice little ear. I have a yarn tail right here. This is what I'm sewing with. That's the back. So I'm going to just position it right behind the fur. And I'm going to bring it down into my knee. I'm going to sew around the front, right up against that fur, come around the back, and tie off to my yarn tail. I have to put it in my knee, but I'll bring it back up and show you how cute they are. I'm going to get both of them on, and I'm going to go all the way through to my head tube so that it's holding this cap on, the bonnet, like Red Riding Hood's bonnet. I have my ears on, and so that anchors it at the top, but I'm going to take my yarn tail back here, my 4-ply that's hanging out, and tack it to the back of the neck so it stays in place. Just like this. Tie it down. Now the back is secure. And I'm going to bury these yarn tails. I went ahead and went around with my yarn tail one more time back here after I tied it, and then cinched it up a little tighter and buried those yarn tails. So I'm getting rid of all the yarn tails now. So let's put our little cape on. All right, so we've cinched up along the top the 3 tubes so that it circles the neck. And when we have it just the right width, we'll want to secure that. So like this. And we have to have a way to secure the top of it. It's so cute. I love it. And it rests right in the tail like this, so the tail can still come around. Okay, so I like this width where it just comes together. So I'm going to just gently take it off and secure it so it can't get bigger or smaller. So I cinched it up along the top here, so I'm going to go through both layers of my tube here and knot it. Okay, so I'm going to do just down inside here. I'm going to do the same thing, just secure, it's right in the center, so I'm going to just secure it, secure this, bury my yarn tails. Be right back. Okay, so we need one more tube, and it is on the 22 pin 90 rows, and it is the gray that matches my fur trim so that it's not so matchy-matchy. So I have my cape up around the neck, and this is going to give me a neckline, a closure. So I'm going to bring it up, and it's actually going to come over like this in the front, and it is going to be the closure to our beautiful cape, like this, to finish it off. Okay, so I'm going to close my cape up. By whip stitching it closed all the way across the top. I'm just going to whip stitch it all the way around now. So just tying off right here, and I'm going to leave myself a yarn tail to tie it shut in the front. I'll tie these yarn tails together to close it, and then I'll put the gray over it. And you don't have to watch me do that, just whip stitching it across so that these tubes stay together, and it'll make it a little more secure. Okay, so I brought my cape around, tied it together, and then took a couple stitches here to hold it shut and tied it again, buried my yarn tails. So we have the most soft, beautiful cape. Okay, so we're going to come in back here in behind our cap, decide where our eye's going to be. And believe me, this would be easier to do in my lap. But coming straight over for the eye, and then come straight across, but come down to the middle a little below. So when I pull it, my eye goes straight across like this, but I've come down a stitch and popped out. So now I'm going to trap that yarn and pull it down, and that's going to give me my closed eye look. So I'm going to come over and go nice and deep, come over to this side, make my straight across, come down a little bit, trap it, and bring it back over inside the cap over here to tie it off. Okay, so we have our eyes in, so let's do a really easy little nose. I just have the little tiny little pom-pom. I think this might be the 1 inch. I'm going to flatten one side of it just by trimming it. And that's the side that's going to go against the face. It's going to give just a perfect little button nose. So when my glue gun's hot, I'm going to pop it on. Make sure that I like the position first, of course. Be right back. While we're waiting for the glue gun to heat up, did you get your tube that goes around the neck ready? So I'm just tucking it in all around so that it comes into the neck, so that the fur is on the outside. So just tucking it in, and it just folds over perfectly. And I'm going to secure it right here. I'm going to close up both ends, tie a knot, bury my yarn tails, have it like this, coming over to make it look finished in that soft gray. So I'm going to do that so I'm just literally just cinching up each end and burying my yarn tails here real quick. I found a nice big button, so I'm going to fold this over on itself and sew this button on so that it looks like it's securing the cloak. So I want to match my edge up so that I have a nice edge here. So I'm just bringing it across so that I'm lined up here and here, and just start sewing this button on. I have my button on, so it's got the little finishing touch. So the part of my pom-pom that I snipped off flat, really look at your face. You want it, remember we put the little nose in here? You want it, don't put it up here in between the eyes. We want it down on its nose. So maybe about right there. Okay, so this is a finishing touch. Let's come up from the bottom of the chin and just bring the little line down under the nose and the sweetest little hint of a mouth. So I'm going to lay it down. Okay, there we go. We don't want to see it traveling under, so we want to be under both layers of our tube, but we have to stay out of the felt that we put in there that we stuffed to hold the nose out. So I'm just coming up another one. So I'm up under the edge of my nose. And I'm going to do it like I did the eyelid. I'm just going to come down, straight down, come over, not far, and that's 1, 2, 3, counting that 1, 2, 3, so maybe to here, and then back out, like that, just really little and sweet. Bring it down. I'm going to come up under the nose one more time. There it is. And come on the outside of my lip. Travel down to where I started and tie it off under the chin. So that we just have the sweetest, tiniest little mouth. Like that. Tiny. Okay, I'm going to tie it off and bury my yarn tails. All right, so now that we have everything on, we need to secure the sides of our hood. So I'm just going to bring it down onto the side of the face here and just come in into the head tube with my yarn that'll kind of match my fur. And I'm just going to tie it. That'll hold it in place on the side. And I'm going to bury the yarn tails in a minute. So I'm going to just cut it off like this. And do one on this side over here just to kind of bring this down to frame the face so sweet. And so now, if you're happy with the way it's sitting and the amount of stuffing you have, it's time to close up the bottom. So this is where you could add a little more stuffing, maybe just to make it sit on the table a little better, or just to square it off a little bit. I always like to, before I close it up, make sure that I've got the butt stuffed out enough. Just usually not too much, but you can always make it just a little bit better. Okay. I'm going to close it up. It happens. Okay, that closed it up almost all the way. And now I'm going to rely on just taking a couple stitches to close that up. I do want my little praying hands to stay together, so I'm coming down about 1 inch. Just coming through with my white thread to the other side. Just skip over a row so that, you know, I'm not going back through the same stitch. Come out on this side. And that's going to give me the look of my little praying hands staying together. So I'll just tie this off right here, because that's part of the look, isn't it? That the hands stay in prayer. How cute is that? And I'm just going to bury these yarn tails too. There's so many of them to bury, huh? I wanted to show you what I use to put the words onto the cape that make this guardian of nature. So these are really sticky. They're mini letters. It's Art Skills. I paid $1.99. There's 150 on there because there's a front. They're on the back. And there's lots of each of the letters. And that's what I use to put down the side. This is what makes it so special. It says watch, heal, guard. And they're just beautiful. They sparkle. And on this side, it says love, pray, and honor. Let me get it up a little closer to the camera. Look how pretty that is on both sides. Perfect lettering. An adorable little guardian of nature. Okay, we can't really be done until we get our toes on. So set your beautiful little fox up. And I'm going to use just this light gray color so that it's not overwhelming. And come up and just start making the little claws, I guess you would say, or to shape that paw pad. Like this, just bringing them down. I want to come past where it's cinched up. I'm coming just right on the other side of that and skipping a row in between. Snugging it up. And coming over to where I started so I can tie it off. And I think that is a nice little finishing touch. Just like this. And I'll bury the yarn tails and do the other little foot. And that just gives us that definition we need before we can really be done. As simple as that. You might want to do yours 4 times. I did mine 3. And I'm just going to stay with that. That's it. Finishing touches matter. And as always, I hope that you'll like, subscribe, that you'll even follow so you'll know when I upload the next pattern. And look how cute. So I'm so thankful that you have supported the channel. Very, very grateful. So like, subscribe, follow, watch, and God bless you.